All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome. Hotboxpodcast.com/live. That's where you can watch these shows every week, Saturdays or Sundays, whenever we got time. Got a great panel tonight. We're going to talk to you all about what's going on in Montana. One of the only states moving backwards, and my home state, so kind of not pleased. But we'll get into all of that. Enjoy the show.
On the seventh day.
The terrors of tripping on pumps.
Be there! Scour the spaceways! Explore vast alien worlds!
This chin right here can teach the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day.
Good.
And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi, big fat doobie. Hi.
Hi, what's up, everybody? Today is Sunday, April 17th, 2016, episode 176 of the Hotbox. Every weekend, usually Saturdays or Sundays, hotboxpodcast.com. Check it out. I'm Matt Lee. Got a great panel for you this evening. Going to focus all about what's going on in Montana currently. We'll start off. We got Casey Brock, veteran and resident of Glendive. He is currently running for Senate District 18. We also have Jessup Sandoval, founder at Access to Nature's Prescription, and Talon Lang. He's all over the place. I don't even know. What are you representing, Talon, this evening?
Well, basically I would like to represent patients and veterans, most importantly, throughout the state here. People who rely on medical marijuana for whatever their malady is, but, particularly for veterans.
Excellent. So we'll start off. Casey, how you doing, man? Welcome to the Hotbox.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good. So you're over there in Glendive. I'm from Kalispell, so kind of the other side of the mountains. What's going on over there?
Well, currently we have a primary. I'm the only Republican candidate running with a pro-cannabis platform, so I've felt a lot of resistance from my party, not from the people. The people are actually overwhelmingly open to the possible idea of a pro-cannabis candidate, and we're also working on getting some agricultural hemp going and getting a manufacturing plant set up, and there's a lot of farmers that are open to that idea as well. So
that's really cool, because that's a third kind of side of this whole issue that's happening. I mean, you have the medical, you have the rec, and then of course you have the opposition, and then you have agriculture, which agricultural can work regardless. That's
right.
Something that should be happening.
Yeah, it should be happening. There's the word cannabis, though. It's really taboo, especially in a very conservative state like Montana. So you got to kind of talk to them on their level. And once you talk to a lot of these farmers about not only the return they can make on their crop, but the amount of protein they get using it on feed for their cattle, which increased weight, increased revenue for them. So you just got to slip it in there. I think if we focus on the agricultural hemp industry, especially in eastern Montana, I think people will be more open to cannabis in general. So once they can make money off the plant.
It's definitely another kind of foot in the door in that direction. Like you see in the medical side, like people that were against it, but then all of a sudden someone they know or someone they're close to gets cancer or gets something that cannabis helps with, and that they see that firsthand, and all of a sudden they're like the loudest person now that's an activist when before they weren't. So I can definitely see that being a huge foot forward, especially on the eastern side where there is a ton of land that you could be growing a lot of cannabis.
And we're poor in eastern Montana, so we haven't had infrastructure in years, so it'd be a great way to bring revenue back. I mean, just trying to go door to door, some of the other candidates that are running, they have money, they have means. I've been doing this on my own dime, but you still see them shamelessly asking these people of eastern Montana for money, knowing they don't have any.
Yeah. We didn't have money in western Montana, but I get what you're saying as far as the infrastructure and everything. We had LTE and cable internet and all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up in Darby, so it's just western Montana's. I'm used to how it works over there.
That's cool. So you're doing great things. You got a website that people can go ahead and send some donations your way, help you get some flyers put out, and just basically get the word out. It takes money to be in politics. I don't know if people know that or not.
Yeah, it does, and really, you're sitting there on the couch one day and you're thinking, you know what, by God, I'm going to run for office, and then you realize, oh, maybe I didn't quite have the money for that. You see them on, it's not as bad as the national stage, but it's still pretty crazy. I'm looking at, over $2,000 just for mailers, and and when you hear that price, you're like, oh, I'll just make some cutouts and put them door to door,
No,
So, but I do have a web.
like it all costs either time or money. Like there's
gas, for work. It's horrible. But I do have a website. You can go to CaseyBrock4Montana.com just to see what I'm about, or you can check out my Facebook page, which is Casey Brock 4 Montana. I do have the link up there for Pyrex that people can go to donate money just to kind of help me out. I mean, my biggest goal is to have the first Republican candidate that put cannabis on his platform and won with it on his platform. I'm not going to be like some of these closeted politicians that, they're not working for the people, so they're too scared to speak out. So.
Yep. Or they're getting their palms greased in the other direction and they just can't.
Right, yeah. A lot of them have actually, you can check out followthemoney.org and start looking up a lot of these politicians, and you'll see that Steve Zabawa actually has paid a lot of them, and as you guys know, Steve Zabawa is the head of Safe Montana. He's trying to make medical marijuana illegal in the state. So.
And as people may or may not know, he is also now on Ryan Zinke's health board committee.
Right.
It's like a bunch. I read through that list. And it's like it's a bunch of doctors and then this guy. It's
right.
Like,
yeah, car salesman. Yeah.
How did you sell them all used cars, or like how did you get in there?
I think last count was he gave Zinke like $9,200. So I guess
gentlemen, it's kind of interesting that this is the 176th episode of the Hot Dog Podcast, and Steve Zabawa's initiative is I-176. So it's kind of fitting that we're able to bring attention to what his initiative actually is and what it's attempting to do here in Montana. I think that's really important because a lot of people, and he's misleading, most of the people that he's getting to sign his petition for him. He's telling people that it's a measure to keep methamphetamine and heroin illegal and out of Montana, and when in reality, I mean, his law doesn't even apply to methamphetamine, which is a Schedule II drug. So he's been misleading people throughout his whole process, and it's important to kind of shine some light on that and let people know exactly what his measure is designed to do, and that's simply to remove access, safe, legal access to medical marijuana here in the state of Montana.
And he's got the funds to do it. And as Taylor and I discussed this a little bit a few days ago, but he's tried this before and failed. And he's not the kind of guy to just like give up and walk away. Like his ego, I'm sure, has been gnawing at him ever since then to like make this right and win. And so he's pretty much pulling out all the stops. And I mean, we saw pictures and screenshots of when he had the state seal on his pages. We saw pictures of kids sitting at his booth getting people like there a lot of just questionable actions on his part, all in the sake of winning and taking away this plant from the people that need it.
Yeah.
Well, he likes to tell people all the time that one of the arguments that he has in favor of his initiative is that marijuana leads to suicide, depression, hepatitis C, and of course everybody's that gets involved in marijuana is going to get involved in the white stuff, which I don't know exactly what he's talking to or referring to, maybe cocaine or meth.
Yeah. We're all going to be snowboarders.
Snowmobiling? Like, that's a terrible addiction. I've spent more money on snowmobiling than I have on weed in my life. I see his point there.
But yeah, I mean, he's nuts though. He's nuts.
Yeah. But he's got the attention of people, which is why we need people like you, like Elizabeth, like Jessup out there pounding the pavement and getting signatures. Now, you were at a thing yesterday, a big meetup, Jessup, and you've been one of the ones out there gathering signatures and everything. How's that been going? Like, what's your feel being with the people?
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, yesterday we were at the Big Sky Pond Skim, and we had an amazing response. I mean, you get a little get no's here and there, and I mean, but it was crazy. Like people were excited. I mean, I don't understand why this is so difficult to get past because when we're out there, everybody seems pretty excited.
Yeah, it's and that's what it is, right? It's the small few that have a very loud voice, and they have a lot of money and time to grow at this.
Well, a lot of the hardest part that I'm seeing too is people my age, you know, millennials don't like to vote. We have this crazy idea that we don't. Yeah, I mean,
We live in our own reality where like shit's just fine the way it is, and like cares. And that's a good point. Like I wasn't registered to vote until the thing last time around in Montana happened. So I got registered so I could go sign that so that this nonsense would stop. And then of course raids happened and they snuck it. Yeah, so it did bring a lot of attention to this like political arena as far as just one issue, right? Like this whole thing has all of us pissed off and paying attention now.
Well, and yeah, I mean that's
The
the
thing that's
other
really
thing is.
important to understand
Go
and
ahead.
remember is that this isn't a partisan issue. Mr. Brock is running as a Republican, and I fully support him in his efforts. And you know, as a lot of people know, that you know, I'm probably not the most conservative individual, but you know, he's supporting us in our efforts as well. This is an issue that reaches across party lines and transcends those boundaries and allows us to all kind of work together for the common good of the people of the state of Montana.
Yep, definitely. Let's. I'm going to try and get Anthony on here, and he can tell us a little bit about their petition and agenda and what they're trying to get passed, and then yeah, we'll talk about why people need to just sign both and stop all of this bickering.
Yeah, we hope.
We hope. I know it'll happen. People just need to get over like the whole I'm right and that's the only way it can be. I think.
A lot of ego in this. There's tons of egos.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of stuff like Talen's been working, you know, as an advocate up at the Capitol pushing for vets, you know, and to have somebody like Steve Zabawa come in and piss all over him, you know, makes you mad. Makes you want to throat punch a guy because he's never been in the service. He doesn't experience what we experienced, and somebody like Talen's busting their ass just to get pissed on. He's been pissed on enough. He was a Marine just like me.
Right, and yeah, and they have no cause except for this is a personal vendetta. It seems. Yeah. Anthony Variano, how's it going, man? You're live on the Hot Box with Casey Brock and Talen and Joseph. Thank you. I was like, I have it all here. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How's everybody doing?
What's up,
Good.
Anthony?
Good, man. What's up?
Just talking about the issues. If you guys remember, Anthony was on quite a few episodes ago representing Cycling for Sensible Drug Policy, trying to get a very simple change to, I believe, the Montana Constitution, just adding two simple words with and marijuana. That's all. Oh, I think we lost him. Nope.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm getting messages from some of our folks.
No worries.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little update on how things are going. We just had a little event in Billings at the rail yard and had a few speakers out there, two of which are also running for Congress seats here in the state of Montana, along with Casey. There's Elizabeth Pincolini and Carrie Boyder, and they are both pro-cannabis candidates that we are going to get elected. Damn it.
Yes. We need more pro-cannabis people in these seats, no matter how small or large. We just need them all there.
Agreed.
Yep, that's been the problem out here in our state. Just dealing with the conservative legislature that keeps messing up all the good work we're trying to do, but this time, hopefully, we won't allow them to do that.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier about how Montana is pretty much the only state going backwards. We just now saw Pennsylvania get their medical marijuana legislation happening, so
right.
That's awesome, and that means what, 25 states now? That's half of the country. So
yeah,
like
actually showed me a pretty cool stat today that more than half of the country's population lives in a state where medical marijuana is available.
Yep, That's awesome. And to see like a state like Montana, like everything was so good and there was such a great industry developing there, and then all of a sudden just raids, and then now all of this happening. So I definitely hope you guys get the signatures you need to get it on the ballot so that people can make the choice once again that this is what we want here.
Well, we got a good thing going here. I think we're starting to pick up in the areas where we're going to get all those extra signatures we need to reach the ballot, because the 40 districts at for 115 at 585 signatures in each district only gets you halfway there. So in Missoula and Helena now, it looks like we have some pretty devoted folks. There's people at a concert tonight gathering in Missoula, and I hope that we're going to have an event in Missoula this weekend to recruit and train gatherers, gather signatures, and fundraise for both Cycling for Sensible Drug Policy and the pro-cannabis candidates that are running in the state.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing. Like Casey was saying earlier, it's you don't realize it until you start doing it. It's like, man, this whole like trying to be the people's servant thing costs a lot of money. Like it's expensive to let people know what's going on. It's crazy. So we definitely want to urge everyone that if you have a chance to attend one of these rallies or anything like that, like definitely go there and meet these people. They're awesome people and they're doing awesome stuff trying to forward this cause, and they definitely can't do it without our help. So.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to be from the state of Montana to help us either. You can go to 420-406.org and donate right at the website. I mean, if you come to this state and visit, I'm sure you probably wouldn't mind being able to smoke a joint before going into Yellowstone National Park. I know I would. So, I mean, this isn't a movement just for Montanans. It's a movement for the 250,000 people who come to this state to tour one of the greatest national parks, well, the greatest national park, in my opinion, in the entire nation.
I think so too. I've been to a lot of parks, but Glacier Park, man, and like all those, it's Montana. Like you can't beat it. I don't know, except for this crazy legislation. Like we need to get the weed straight there so people can enjoy it. To see what Colorado's doing with their weed tourism and everything, there's so much potential there other than just selling weed to people.
How many people do you think rescheduled their ski trip to Big Sky so they can go get high in Colorado on their ski trip?
Yeah, like Big Sky or Aspen or
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can tell you the lift lines at Big Sky would be a lot shorter even if there were a 25% increase in attendance due to people wanting to smoke weed out here.
But the thing that's really important for everybody, and a point that's really important to drive home is that, this isn't. It's not like it's money that isn't already being spent in the economy. It's just being spent in the black market. And if we have the ability to be able to take it out of that black market and to tax it and regulate it, it keeps it out of the hands of youth. It gives much needed tax revenue to our states. Our infrastructure here in Montana is crumbling. And, the bill that Anthony has, the fiscal note that's attached to it, I think it generates $37 million in the first 5 years for the state of Montana. I think those are really, really conservative estimates.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at what the numbers coming out of the other legal states are. I mean, there's no comparison. Like how, if you were running your state like a business, you would get in trouble by your board for not making the choice that makes the company money. Like that. I don't see how you can still fight it after that.
Right.
Yeah, Colorado earned over $60 million in tax revenue last year. Washington collected over $70 million in tax revenue in their first year. It's just, and like I said, this isn't money that wasn't already being spent in the states of Colorado and Washington. It was just money that was taken out of the black market.
There's not a huge number of people that start, and I mean there are a few. I saw quite a few in the older generation that came to these rec shops that I was reviewing cannabis from, and they're like, we're new to this because it's legal. We're going to try it out and see what's up. And like it's so cool to see people like that getting to experience this for the first time without all of the stigma that, like, oh, you're a criminal, you're going to jail, you're going to lose your house. Like, a lot of that stuff breeds this anxiety when people smoke, and they're like, oh, it comes from the weed, and it's like, well, I think it comes from the environment that you're smoking the weed in. So it's cool to see these new experiences without all of that, attached to it. There's like, it's free and clear, it's legal. And to Taylor's point about, all of the revenue, let's even take it one step further. All of the jobs that are created, I have a job that has health insurance now. I didn't have that in Montana. Like, it's this industry that has that for people, and it could have that in Montana if we would allow it.
Oh, and then if we had third party,
also the ancillary businesses that are associated with the marijuana industry. Just the marijuana industry in itself is a growth industry, pardon the pun, but it's an industry that's creating jobs in the stores, in creating jobs in the production facilities, and creating jobs in labs and manufacturing. I mean, this is a new growth industry that we should definitely support, and I would look forward to the day that marijuana is looked upon just like beer and wine is. I mean, we have local brew fests that happen throughout the states that are supported by local chambers of commerce. Wine is looked upon as a very boutique kind of experience. It's something that people will go and drive hundreds of miles to go and experience. And I think that eventually, if we continue in the path that we're going now, that marijuana within the next maybe 20 years is going to be looked upon as nothing more than like beer and wine is.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Jessup? There's a delay between Skype and Hangouts, so sorry about that.
I cannot remember.
Okay, no worries. But so how, as far as like being out there and collecting signatures, like you guys, a lot of the places you all set up, I see pictures that you're like right across from Steve and the signatures he's trying to collect. Like, is there like an animosity and a tension in the air there, or is like what is that like?
Is this directed to me?
Anyone that's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I have yet to come across Steve, so I don't. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have had amazing experiences every time I've gone out to get signatures. I mean, you get a few animosity, but I kind of let that go. They're usually drunk, but
they're usually on that table.
I've had to deal with Steve probably about 4 times. He's come up and set up at the Republican winter kickoffs, which are the Republican rallies for candidates. We go to the Lincoln Reagan dinner, and we have that there. And the first night I caught on to what he was doing. It was my first introduction into the man, really. He was telling some lady to sign his initiative because it would make meth illegal in the state of Montana. And I had to call him out on that, and I've called him out at every rally, and he gets this deer in the headlights look when he starts getting called out on all his misinformation, and then he'll just pack up and leave. So,
and that's how you know it's some bullshit. Like back in the day when the village got wind that the guy selling the special magic tonic water was a fraud, like that guy was gone.
And actually, there's a lot of candidates that, when questioned why they were even tolerating, because he's giving a lot of money to Essman, who's the head of the Republican Party here. So of course he gets to personally come set up. But if you talk to a lot of the Republican candidates in the room, they can't stand the man. They don't like him. They don't want to be near him. Because Republican platform says smaller government, and Steve's trying to push for a bigger government, and that's not helpful. So
it's interesting. I saw some rumors, call them what you will, but in a couple of videos, he's actually plugging Sativex pretty heavily. So
right.
Has anyone actually track that down, or is that the only pharmaceutical version of whatever that he can refer to, or what?
Taylor, you had a bunch on that, didn't you?
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of curious. Like, I've seen the videos and I know what everyone's been saying online, but is that something he's actually into that deep? Because that seems really conflicting.
John Lester said he was pushing it at one of his little meet and greets at a church in Billings. He actually brought it up and was talking about it and talking about the health benefits, and I can't see why somebody would bring that up like that unless they were personally vested in, the product.
It seems, because you would otherwise, if you were just like just saying it should be in a pharmaceutical like kind of way. You would just say that. You wouldn't say Sativex specific. Marinol.
Well, here's the thing, guys, is that if he is invested in Sativex, it sure would show a clear financial motive for him to want to keep regular plant marijuana medical cannabis illegal here in the state of Montana. You know, and Speed is definitely a guy who's motivated by money. So I'm not going to, you know, say or guess either way, but it certainly would show a very, very clear financial incentive for him to want to keep regular plant medical marijuana out of the hands of regular Montanans.
Well, and as someone that works with a lot of patients, like, we've seen what Marinol and Sativex, like, they're not whole plant by any means. They're just synthetic cannabinoid replicas of THC, I think. Maybe CBD, but, I mean, that doesn't work in my experience. Have you seen anyone that's actually chosen that over smoking cannabis, Kalen? Or just...
I really haven't. I've seen a lot of the people that have taken Marinol for whatever reason, you know, in the various dispensaries that I've worked at. They've, you know, had bad experiences with Marinol because Marinol is basically just it's an isolated synthetic THC. And cannabis works for various medical conditions, not simply because of the THC that's in the plant, but also there's other cannabinoids, CBD, CBN, you know, and also the terpenes that work in conjunction with the cannabis. So it's the plant cannabis itself, or extracts of that whole plant cannabis, that are the most effective in dealing with people's maladies, whatever they may be.
I'm just waiting to see everything turn out like the Spice did.
Yeah, right.
And guys, you have to realize, I mean, this is a substance that is arguably less harmful than alcohol. As a matter of fact, in 1972, there was a justice, Judge Young, who was the Drug Enforcement Chief Administrative Law Judge, and he basically said that cannabis, in its natural form, is one of the safest therapeutically active substances known to man. He said, by any measure of rational analysis, marijuana can be safely used when supervised in a routine of medical care. I mean, so this is a DEA Chief Administrative Law Judge who admitted this. And so for us to now have people like Steve Zabala donating a ton of money to sit on Ryan Zinke's medical executive board to tell Zinke that marijuana is harmful and that it's bad and that it has no medical use, when it was acknowledged 25 years ago that it you know, actually 27 years ago now, that it actually does by a DEA judge, it's just ridiculous that we're still at this point.
Well, we should also point out that their board didn't listen to that judge in particular back then, and they continued on their path. Sure,
and that's where we got the increase in the ramping up in the war on drugs.
Yep, exactly.
And our prison population has exploded. I mean, now we house, you know, what do we house? A quarter of the world's total population in prison? I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and for what, right? Because they got some weed in Canada.
Right, yeah, they had a small bag of something.
Ancillary businesses that have kind of popped up that have taken advantage of this, you know, like drug treatment facilities are a great example of that. What they rely on for their business model is they rely on people who get, you know, busted with a small amount of marijuana, and then they're told in court, they say, you can either go to jail for 30 days or you can go to this outpatient drug treatment facility. So these people are now court-ordered into these minor marijuana treatment facilities for minor marijuana violations. They're not checking themselves in, and then you have the DEA citing statistics of, look at how many people are being checked in for marijuana addiction. And you have these, you know, the cottage industry has kind of cropped up around marijuana use unnecessarily, and it wouldn't be profitable and it wouldn't survive if marijuana was made legal.
Well, and let's do a little experiment here. Let's say there's 5 of us here. Let's say you guys all got busted with weed, and the choice is jail or do a drug treatment program. Like, are any of you picking jail? I'm not.
No, treatment every time.
Yeah, I'll bullshit my way through the program again if I need to. You know, like there's no way I don't want to go to jail. And that's that inflates those numbers. And every study that you see coming out that uses those numbers that like, oh, all these kids are in drug treatment for weed, like that's why.
Yep. Well, because the more numbers they have, the bigger subsidies they get from the government. So
Filling beds, right?
Prison system. I mean, look at Missouri. I believe it was Missouri. I mean, their prison population's dwindling, and the head of the wardens in Mississippi or whatever, Missouri, wherever it was like, oh, we need to lock up more people so we can keep our prisons full.
In what rational state of living is that ever a good thing? Like, let's lock everyone up. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, Montana's doing the same shit here, though. I mean, we had a good legal system, and let's raid everybody and put them in jail.
Yeah.
You know? And now you have Attorney General running for re-election who rules this state with an iron fist, and you know he's like that tyrant. You know, he's one of the old medieval kings. He won't give up power, and you can bet that, you know, right before that bell chimes, he's going to send out a bunch of people to get raided. So,
yep.
Well, you know, because you know, here in the United States, it's been estimated probably somewhere roughly around 14% of Americans admit to regularly using marijuana. Okay. Anybody know what the population of the United States is currently?
I bet Google does.
That's what I was just about to do.
I mean, so if we were to
300
just break it,
and 18.
If we were to take that and break it down into just Montana, okay, Montana has a population of just roughly 1 million people. So we're looking at roughly 140,000 Montanans are regularly using marijuana with no ill effects. The legislature, when we had our medical bill, and the reason why we're in kind of the quagmire and the conundrum that we are, is that the legislature freaked out when 30,000 people got their medical card. That was not even a drop in the bucket compared to how many Montanans there are that regularly use it. And I would say that those are probably conservative estimates because we're talking about people who are willing to say that they've used it on a national government-related survey. So the numbers are probably higher than that. So, you know, if we had, say, roughly, you know, state regularly using marijuana, that's you know, over 200,000 people here in Montana. You know, that's money that those 200,000 people are using right now to spend in the black market and supporting crime when it could be going to much more productive things for our state.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and then what's crazy that, like, I think I told you I went and filmed some people on Friday in Billings. Like, I filmed Anthony and I filmed Nancy just to kind of get their stories. And, I mean, the more medical patients you talk to, people like Nancy, who is an MS patient, who's not just your stoner out there smoking, she's also saying, let's make this legal as recreational because she is, I mean, it's a medicine for her, but she's also screaming, this is not dangerous. Like, we need
personal liberty choice.
Yeah, and it's even, yeah, we definitely need to get this recreational because it's not as dangerous. It's not even comparable to alcohol.
Well, that's the whole point of, like, rescheduling and descheduling. People are saying, like, if they reschedule it, that could make it even worse, potentially, because then it will be just Big Pharma, and that'll be the end of it. But if you look at the purpose of the system for scheduling, it's to keep people safe. Like, if there is a substance that you're not going to get hurt, you're not going to get killed, like, it should even be scheduled at all, or should you treat it like a supplement? Or something like that, you know. People could OD on supplements before they can start with weed. It's ridiculous.
Sugar, for example, we call sugar a sugar high. You get a sugar
or coffee.
There is.
Well, you know, marijuana, when it was placed into Schedule 1, it was never meant or intended to be in Schedule 1 on a permanent basis. It was put into Schedule 1 until research could be done to determine where or if it needed to be scheduled. And then that research was never done, and then it became demonized, you know.
Yeah.
And we all know the reasons why it became demonized with, you know, William Randolph Hearst and DuPont and all those guys, and the reasons why they wanted it illegal. And then Nixon in the 70s was able to use it in the culture war, and so it's just kind of continued for a substance, guys, that is arguably less societally harmful than alcohol is, you know.
Or tobacco.
That's just crazy. I mean, as you said, the reasons why we have a scheduling category of different substances is to reduce harm. And if there is no harm, then there's no need for reduction of harm.
Right. Especially considering how much the benefits outweigh anything else. Like there are only benefits.
Right. In a current state of unregulation, when it's being sprayed with pesticides, when it's half of its black market, it's still safer than everything.
Right? Like
we only are getting safer from here on out.
Like some seriously gross shit, and we're still okay. I look here and there, but hey.
Yeah, chronic condition.
Prohibition of cannabis causes way more problems than cannabis itself.
Yeah, and in what country or like what planet is that something that's enforced? Like that is so asinine. It's like satire. This whole thing is satire.
It is. It's like I wake up just going, this can't be real life.
Except that it's not, and it is affecting real people. And if this all like goes down the way we don't want it to, like there's only going to be 3 people that a caregiver can provide for. Like nobody's going to be able to sustain that, which is obviously the whole point.
And then the biggest thing is having variety. Like how does the provider grow the variety for that patient, you know? Like we all like different strains at different times of the day, you know, we all get different benefits. How does that provider do that? How does the patient get that option?
Yeah, and obviously that's the whole point, is they're trying to just make this as undoable, I guess, for lack of a better term.
But if you look at all the countries where it's legal, you don't have the same problem.
The legislature at that time was hell-bent on repealing the voter initiative, a voter initiative that 62% of Montanans supported. And so when the repeal passed through the House and the Senate and got to the governor's desk, he decided to veto it. So the only thing they could do in the 11th hour after they had killed all the responsible regulatory bills is to cobble together Senate Bill 423, it was a law that was never designed to work for the state of Montana. It was a law that was designed to be as close to repeal as they could possibly get. And the governor, when it passed through the House and it passed through the Senate and it got to his desk, he knew that it was a terrible bill. And he knew what it was going to do to the state of Montana and to the people that desperately need this medicine. And so he did not sign the law. He let it sit on his desk for 10 days and let it become law in protest. You know, so now we're kind of dealing with the fallout of that. And once again, the people here in the state of Montana move this issue forward, and then our courts and our legislature move it backwards. And so, you know, it's really up to us to, you know, the ball is in our court. It's up to us and what we want and what we decide is important for us as Montanans.
Well, and I think it's even bigger than just Montana, too. Like, to kind of go off of what Anthony was saying, like, it's not just an issue for Montana. This is an issue for any state that is trying to get medical or this initiative passed in their state, because if we're the first state that goes backwards, how does that look as the entire industry?
That's precedent that they will always point and refer to, like, well, look at what happened in Montana.
Right, exactly.
It was so bad there that they had to stop it.
Exactly. So, and that's just the other thing too, is right now we're looking for support within Montana, but anybody outside of Montana that supports this, if you could go and help us just make this happen, like, you know, Anthony's website you can go and donate to, 420-406. We need as much help as we can right now, and I think it's important for everybody.
Say that again, Anthony?
Yeah, can I get in for just a minute?
Yeah, please.
Well, the medical marijuana initiative is going to be released tomorrow. Nobody's going to like it. It makes it harder for people to recertify and keep their certification, or whatever you want to call it, registration card to provide. It costs $1,000 every year to renew.
Wow.
So that's to push out a lot of the smaller providers that are currently doing good work for patients throughout the state. It also, I have a feeling, is going to attract those that have the bankroll in order to pay that licensing fee and to get up and running quickly in first market, which would be the large upscale places out of Colorado, Washington, and Oregon. So my question is why aren't these guys donating to our ballot initiative so they can move in and start reaping the rewards of this industry?
That's a good point, right? There is a lot of cash flow out here in these legal states, and I think maybe some of it is they just don't know. So hopefully we can help get the word out there, and I think some of it is too that they're just so caught up in what they're doing in their little piece of America, I guess, that how when you live in a state, you kind of don't pay attention to what's going on in other states, even though.
Oh, that's not true. I've spoken to multiple providers or recreational shops in Colorado, probably 5 or 6 in Denver that I just visited a couple weeks ago, and asked them that question, and they said, well, we would, of course, move in on those markets. Like, they were already expanding to Oregon and Washington, and we're looking into Alaska, considering New Mexico now that they have pretty good polling down there, and it feels like it could happen. But yeah, they have no interest in putting down money that they that may or may not end up with them growing their business in the state. So, but maybe after we reach the ballot, some of those providers in other states can change their mind and say, well, hey, let's push this over the hump and get ourselves another business out in Montana.
Did they say why? Like what the reasoning was that they didn't want to kick funds?
It's risk, because what if we fail? Then they've sunk in whatever, a $5,000 check on something that didn't pay off.
It's interesting. It really is, because I truly feel, and I support all of the initiatives. I support the medical initiative. I support the legalization initiative. And personally, I think that the constitutional initiative is the strongest way to protect medical access, because it guarantees access for everybody.
Yep,
a lot of people here in the state of Montana too are kind of still afraid of marijuana. There was a poll that was recently done, and this is just ridiculous, but the perception of harm of marijuana versus alcohol in the state of Montana is very skewed. Most Montanans think that there's more harm that can be caused from marijuana than there is from alcohol. And that's a perception that we really, as a community, need to work on to educate people about marijuana and to educate them as to how safe and how therapeutic and it's a substance that is less harmful than alcohol societally and to your body and all the way around.
And that's why our pamphlets, those flyers we hand out, cite D. Mark Anderson's work at Montana State University, not only because he's a local professor and an upstanding member of academia, but it's also shown that, his research is the one report that has shown marijuana to be a substitute for alcohol, which is why we see fewer traffic fatalities, which is why we see fewer DUIs, which is why we see lower crime rates in general, because there's going to be less people using alcohol because they're going to be substituting with marijuana.
Yeah, it seems like
absolutely.
There's positive drugs and then there's negative drugs, and it's like cannabis has that kind of feel. It's one of the positive drugs. Alcohol is kind of negative, and it divides people, makes them fight. Tobacco's kind of in the middle, like it makes you feel fine, but it'll kill you like 100 years later or something.
Well, a funny thing is Steve Zabawa in a recent radio interview said and admitted that methamphetamine is not covered under his law, and that feasibly somebody could, under his law, legalize medical methamphetamine, which is just asinine. That's just so crazy to think that he understands and realizes that somebody could legalize meth under his law, but he is now making marijuana, which is far less harmful, that nobody has ever died from, illegal.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid.
That clip is pretty classic. I would definitely try and point people to that in the show notes here after the episode if they want to take a listen. I think it was on Montana America. I forget what the show
It was
was.
like Voices of Montana, wasn't it?
Yeah, Voices of Montana, and it was a call-in show, and people were calling in, and this one guy just is like, "So, is this what you advocate?" And the host was like, "Oh, that's a good question. Is it?" And he's like, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess it kind of is." Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I was the first one to call in on Voices of Montana when he was there with the police chief St. John's out of Billings, and I brought up in the initiative that you lose your gun rights, you lose the right to hold office, and they take a DNA sample. And when I brought that up, the guy on Voices of Montana was like, "Wait, what? Is that true? Is that for real?" And Steve was just like, "Well, Casey knows that changes need to be made." And the guy's like, "Well, I don't think he meant that."
Not those changes, dude.
You know, when you tell people that's in the initiative, you like to pretend it's
constantly advocating for smaller government, but yet at the same time, have things that are just like that, which in my mind is a way bigger invasion of privacy and big government than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up. It's been awesome having all of you. Anthony, one more time, the site and people can donate. And then I had a question. Can you donate to these candidates if you are a resident of a different state, or only to, like, can people donate to Casey and to Elizabeth
Yep.
if they're out of state?
Yeah, if you're out of state, you can donate to anybody. You just have to follow our campaign, which is $170 max per individual, or $340 for a couple of donations. So.
Excellent. So, Anthony, where can people do that? Again, we'll put links to all this in the show notes.
Well, people can give us as much as they want, and
Excellent.
and they can go to 420-406.org and hit the donate button at the top of the homepage.
Very cool.
Also, if you want to stay updated on what we're doing, you can subscribe to the website by entering your email address, and then you'll get updates on every time that we publish a blog. You can follow us on Cycling for Sensible Drug Policy, the group on Facebook, and follow at Montana MT Pot Peddler on Twitter.
Very good. Were any events you guys are putting up here in the next week or two that you want to mention?
Well, hopefully we've got something in Missoula this weekend. We haven't confirmed anything yet, but we want to do signature gathering, fundraising, and recruitment and training out in Missoula, because we've got new coordinators in both Missoula and Helena, it looks like. So.
And then I think there's going to be places to gather signatures across Montana on 420. So there's going to be several events going on there.
Missoula, there's going to be a showing of a Cheech and Chong movie up in Smoke, I think. So I think Greg Strandberg will be outside gathering there. And then there's a concert tonight, Meth Man and Redman, I think, in Missoula, where we've got signature gatherers at that as well. So yeah, and then there's also a Google Calendar I'm sharing with everybody, these gathering signatures for us, and trying to go through just all these events in cities throughout the state, and trying to put our signature gatherers in, a position to succeed, put them around people who are going to sign the petition and, not waste their time. So
awesome. Definitely got us.
And that can be viewed on our website as well.
Very cool. We'll direct people there too on the show notes and everything. You definitely got to keep people organized, otherwise it turns into trying to herd cats, and y'all know how hard it is to herd cats.
Right.
Yeah. So, Talon, you got anything you want to plug or mention before we let you go?
No, God, I mean, there's so many exciting things. It's really been fantastic to watch the citizens of the state of Montana really come together on this issue. I mean, we've got, CI-115 and I-178 that look to legalize medical here in the state of Montana. We've got Steve Zaballa's I-176, which is looking to make all medical marijuana or any marijuana illegal in the state of Montana. And we need to really educate people as to what exactly that bill does and to vote no on that bill. And then also, too, the Montana Cannabis Industry Association is going to have a medical bill on the ballot as well. potentially that they're working very hard to get done. So we could have as many as 4 ballot initiatives to deal with marijuana in this election, and I think that that's just incredibly exciting. It shows that the people here in the state are engaged, that they're wanting change, and that they support this very, very important issue.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to add also that if the DEA does right by the people of this great country and deschedules, preferably, or reschedules cannabis when they said they would by July, I believe, Zavala's whole initiative will be torpedoed.
Wouldn't that be great for him? For him to spend $10,000 a month of his own money to try and get his initiative, and then they wanted to be scheduled or rescheduled, and for that all to go to waste would just be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would be an absolutely wonderful win. I will salute all of you guys with the post via podcast or live, preferably live.
Pretty much have to call Guinness and be like, you guys better get down here. We have the world record for I told you so about to happen. You need to come watch this. Awesome. Well, Taylor and Anthony, thank you guys for joining us. It's been awesome.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Yep, for sure.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll talk soon, guys. All right, Anthony, Casey, I'm so stoned now. What's your website, man, and how can people donate your
my website's CaseyBrock4Montana.com. You can go there. That actually just really speaks about me, my fight with the Department of Justice, and my current run for Senate. Most people can donate if they go to Casey Brock 4 Montana on Facebook. They'll be able to find my link to Pyrex right there, and that's how they can donate to me. So
we'll put
I believe you have that link already, and we can just put it at the bottom of the website or something for them. It'll be easier that way. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard trying to spell out links sometimes, so we're just like, here, click this and give some money. It'll help.
Right, yeah, and it's just easier for them to do it that way. I'll give you my website as well, so you can put that at the bottom too, and that way everybody can just go see what I'm about. And it'll be nice. It'll be nice to get my mailers out, more door hangers and everything else, and start getting the message out there.
Yep, got to get the word out. And Jessup, what's your website or anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, my website's anpfoundation.com. Right now, my entire efforts are to help maintain access for these people because I can't really. I initially wanted to help people pay for RSO treatment, but kind of Montana put that on hold for me. So my entire efforts are right now to help get this passed, the recreational initiative passed, and yeah, I mean that's really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and once all that happens, then all the research can happen and all this other cool cannabis science.
I'm also putting together a little kind of spoof documentary. I'm gonna call it "Making Us Stoners" and kind of parody off of "Making a Murderer,"
Nice.
but filming all of these stories on how they're making us be something we're not. We're not a bunch of stoners.
Right.
So I'm kind of putting that together. I filmed Anthony. I filmed Nancy. I'd love to film you, Casey. I'm gonna film Elizabeth. I'm just trying to get as many people who don't look like.
Yeah, break the stoner stereotype, basically.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what I'm
You
trying
can film me anytime, man. Don't bother me none.
Sweet. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, and we'll like I said, we'll have links to all this stuff in the show notes at hotboxpodcast.com. There's a ton of great Facebook groups that I follow that all of these great people are in, and they're doing amazing things. So they definitely could use your help. And we'll throw links.
And we are trying to put together a rally in Bozeman May 7th, and Casey's supposed to be speaking at that, and Elizabeth. So
Wait, what rally?
What's that?
I'm just kidding. I was just kidding with you.
I hear you guys give pretty good speeches.
Yeah, I try. I think my link is up. I can share the link with you, so
nice.
you can put that up on the podcast.
watch this guy give a speech. It's pretty good shit. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and
Yeah.
we'll put links to all that stuff, and you guys can always find the show at hotboxpodcast.com. We're on Twitter and Facebook also. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Matt.